In this video, I'd like to finally talk to you about the three most prominent, most damaging, best known corruption effects in World of Warcraft 8.3, patch 8.3. Let's run horrific visions with them. Let's compare them. Let's do this. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Gyro here. As just right now announced to you in the intro, we are going to be looking at the three most prominent effects, most prominent corruption effects that you can get in patch 8.3, and this information should be relevant for you at the very least until Shadowlands launches. It is especially relevant for you because right now in this stage of the game, corruptions are no longer particularly random. There is some random factor in terms of how you could obtain them, but right now that Mother is selling corruptions. Basically, you could specifically cater a certain purchase of a corruption and time and kind of save the Echoes of Ny'alotha as the currency that you buy corruptions with. You can listen to me, talk to you, see what I'm about to show you, and decide which corruption you want and basically buy it. Short of it is going to be that the choice of your corruption effect is going to depend dramatically on your playstyle, on your class, spec, and exactly where you think your current performance of your character is lacking. Corruption, usage of corruption effects, I am using Horrific Visions as the primary example of challenging content for a solo player that I am in World of Warcraft currently, but for you it could be usage for Mythic Plus, it could be usage for some other content. But basically, as you know by now, this is not a proper maybe deep dive into what corruptions are. I suspect that you know what corruptions are. It's not my goal to deviate too much and dive into that rabbit hole of explaining what corruptions even are and how you get them, etc. I expect that you know it. Now, more to the point, we're going to be looking at Twilight Devastation, we're going to be looking at Infinite Stars, and we're going to be looking at Echoing Void. I am well aware that another very popular damagey corruption is Gushing Wound. I have only Gushing Wound rank 1, and throughout all these weeks when I was preparing to record this video, there was no Gushing Wound of rank 2 or 3 for sale. And I thought that for this comparison, I at the very least needed to have them at as high level, as high rank as possible, those corruptions. So I kind of did not include Gushing Wound into this comparison at rank 1. I'm sorry if that is your corruption of choice, but then your choice is already made. I'll be talking about these three that are very prominent, very well known, everyone talks about them. You get me, yes? Okay, now other conditions that you need to be aware of how this test was conducted. I am a very casual player, my regulars know it. My new people who are watching this video are most welcome to stay, subscribe and show your support. So this little, it's not even a disclaimer, it's a little tiny explanation, it's mainly for you. I'm a casual player running within a casual item level range of about 450. I have multitude of alts, and mainly what I was doing in 8.3 is running different specs, testing different alts, doing power checks of different specializations and classes in Horrific Visions. So I will be running this test through Horrific Vision of Stormwind. Tests were conducted on the same day, so the conditions of the environment were kept as close as possible to one another. Unfortunately, I did not have all corruptions on the same character, which is why character changes from corruption to corruption. But how I run it, how I specialize, how I approach mobs and how I run through Stormwind, I tried to keep as close as possible. Example, my druid tank is the one with Echoing Void. So I am going to, because of other two characters who are also in tanking specs and they cannot stealth, so they have to face all mobs, yeah? This is exactly the same way as I will run Guardian in this test. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. So normally, if we were just pushing for time, highest performance, all of that, I would be skipping a lot of mobs on Guardian because I would stealth past them. But to keep the conditions a little bit closer together, I was basically running Guardian as a bear, not stealthing at all. So that's an example of where I tried to keep conditions as close as possible. Another thing that I already kind of alluded to is the fact that I ran all three classes, all three different corruptions for test purposes in tanking specs. Corruption, Twilight Devastation is on my Paladin. Paladin is protection spec. Corruption of Infinite Stars is on my Death Knight and he is in blood spec. And Corruption of Echoing Void is on my Guardian, who is a tank druid. Yeah. Last thing to say before we jump into the numbers, jump into the elements of the run, and I'll talk to you a little bit about corruptions themselves. Unfortunately, it's not, again, it's still not one-to-one comparison. It's not exactly apples to apples comparison, because I was lucky enough to have Twilight Devastation rank 3 on my Paladin in this particular case, and I had only Infinite Stars rank 2, Corruption level 50 on my Death Knight, so it's a rank below, and Echoing Void is Corruption level 60. I don't know, see, like even on that scale it's hard to tell, is Corruption level 60 for Echoing Void actually a rank 3 for Echoing Void, or is it rank 2 for Echoing Void? I'm not entirely super sure, but you're with me. And kind of running a little bit ahead of myself, you will see that results are going to be indicative anyway. And the number that I'm going to get from Infinite Stars, for example, of rank 2 versus Twilight Devastation rank 3, I could extrapolate by knowing, by researching and knowing the difference in percentage difference of damage between Infinite Stars rank 2 and Infinite Stars rank 3. I was able to take the number obtained from rank 2 and extrapolate it to what rank 3 probably would have given me. With that scientific, mathematical, very crude stuff out of the way, let's talk about Twilight Devastation. Twilight Devastation is probably the best known damaging corruption in patch 8.3. Everyone either wanted one or then started saving Echoes of Ny'alotha and buying whatever they could afford as far as Twilight Devastation is concerned. Rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, they're all fairly fantastic for what they're good for. They are. Twilight Devastation is the purple beam that hits from the sky at sometimes the great moments that make you go, yes, you get it, guys. And sometimes it hits at the moments when you have just turned away and just wanted to move, but Twilight Devastation hit and you were like, wasted shot, because the enemies were right here and they were fine, and Twilight Devastation just traveled that way and off it went, and then you were without your primary damage dealing ability, especially as a tank who doesn't have access to any particularly damaging essences. So, wasted shot, yeah? Now, Twilight Devastation, without a doubt, is a tremendous AoE tool, AoE damaging mechanism, if, like I just explained, if you were able to target it properly. It hits straight in front of you. It travels right in front of you. If you are too close, it will spawn behind the target and not hit it. If you are too turned away and a little bit further away, so Twilight Devastation when spawning wasn't able to hit the target, again it's a missed opportunity for you. We were running the Horrific Vision of Stormwind, and in any Horrific Vision, as a tank, you generally will be benefiting from Twilight Devastation the most, more than a ranged class would be, so please pay attention. If you are applying this logic of mine to a ranged class, let's say you're playing a mage or a hunter or even a warlock, if you are further away from the mobs, you would need to target better and not be too far, because one too many times, not in this test, but I've seen on my ranged classes with Twilight Devastation, where I was even facing forward, but I was staying obviously as far away from trouble as possible. But the weak point of Twilight Devastation is that it doesn't travel that crazy far. It goes, if I was a guessing man, I'd say not for even 30 yards. I'd say it goes for maybe 20, maybe 30, I don't know. But anyway, in the gaming terms, in the gaming distance there in World of Warcraft, it doesn't feel like it travels for too far. So I've seen that beam spawn, traveled towards the group of mobs that I was very interested in getting rid of, and it just died out right before it reached the mob, and I was like, no! Yeah. So Twilight Devastation, I think that's all that's worth saying about Twilight Devastation. Corruption effect, Twilight Devastation 3 hits for a metric ton. It hits for 18% of your health. As a tank, obviously you have a lot of health, so it's fantastic, and the numbers show it. You pay for it with corruption level of 75, but you mitigate this and it basically is the only corruption that you need. You don't need anything else. As long as you target properly, distance yourself properly from the mobs, face forward as much as possible. It hit, as you can see, overall stats are, it hit 32 times in the whole run, in the test run, end to end, full clear of Horrific Vision of Stormwind. It did just over 6 million damage, 6 million points of damage, and it was my top ability, and it did 23%, 23.8, almost 24%, almost a quarter of all the damage that my Protection Paladin did in a Horrific Vision was attributed to Twilight Devastation. So we will see how the other two have done in a second, but this is certainly a very impressive result. I hope you would agree. Now we will talk about Infinite Stars. Infinite Stars, I like Infinite Stars. I spoke very positively about Infinite Stars on many occasions throughout my previous runs, because Infinite Stars does not require such accurate positioning. It still has a certain distance at which it hits. You still need to be not too far away, but sometimes on some occasions I feel like it hits a little further even than Twilight Devastation reaches, but that might be an optical illusion. I do not quote me on that, I'm not sure. One thing that is sure is the fact that Infinite Stars is known as a boss killer, because Infinite Stars leaves a debuff, and that debuff accumulates, and every subsequent hit of Infinite Stars increases the damage. Infinite Stars is not as good on area of effect, a lot of trashy mobs type of clears. And, well, in all fairness, Horrific Visions mainly give us those high numbers, mainly give us those kind of beneficial conditions when we, especially as tanks, when we tank groups. And then say Twilight Devastation or something that hits as an AoE obviously will shine and skyrocket in numbers because it hits everyone at the same time. So best bits about Infinite Stars once again are if a fight is a bit longer, if it's a boss fight basically, if it's a Mythic Plus, High Mythic Plus, if it's a raid boss, say LFR or other raids, or if you are generally with a low output of damage and your main struggle through Horrific Visions is that you just cannot seem to get the bosses down quickly enough, or not get them down at all. Someone like Matthias Shaw, someone like Magister Umbric, whatever, Illyria, then Infinite Stars is definitely your friend, because Infinite Stars allows you to run away, even turn completely backwards, but it will still hit your target as long as you're within range and as long as it's selected, and the more it hits, the harder it hits. So Infinite Stars for that type of playstyle, it's fantastic. So let's take a look at the numbers. So again, full clear on my Death Knight, on the Blood Death Knight. How many times did it hit? It hit 56 times, so twice the number of Twilight Devastation hits. Sometimes in some other runs, I did not count as much as I did for this video, but it felt like it hit even more than that, even more frequently than that. It did overall a lot less damage. It did only 2,200,000 and a little bit of points of damage. It did not even fit into my top 3 or top 2 abilities that were damaging abilities for Blood Death Knight, which is, well, on overall performance, it's somewhat disappointing. It only did 10% of damage, 10% of overall damage in the whole Horrific Vision run, which was honestly quite surprising for me, because when in particular fights I do need that extra burst of damage as a tank, especially who doesn't have that much of pump out of DPS on a single big fat target, Infinite Stars can make a fight for you. Infinite Stars is a boss killer. But when you are competing with, say, Twilight Devastation and there is a whole bunch of AoE to be done, then look, it's not obviously as prominent, it's not as powerful. Now, final thing to say here before we go to Echoing Void is that, as I mentioned, I was testing Twilight Devastation rank 3 versus Infinite Stars rank 2. So let's at the very least extrapolate the numbers and take a look at these 2,200,000 points of damage done by Twilight Devastation rank 2. Infinite Stars rank 2. Infinite Stars rank 2, by the way, says that it does 23,024 points of damage per hit. In my build, I don't know what else it relies on, but that is how much my Infinite Stars rank 2 was supposed to do. Infinite Stars rank 3, similarly, as I've seen it, I think, for sale by Mother, when Mother was selling Infinite Stars rank 3, I just didn't have enough Echoes of Ny'alotha to buy it back then, unfortunately. I think, correct me in the description down below, this comes from my head. I tried to even do research, but no website clearly tells me that number. But by memory, I think that Infinite Stars rank 3 was supposed to hit at around 27,000 per hit. So 23-ish at rank 2, 27 at Infinite Stars rank 3. I believe so. That indicates the difference in the numbers, the increase in the numbers by about 15%. So next rank would hit for 15%. So what I've done is, just for the, to make it a bit, to keep it a bit mathematical and scientific, I basically applied 50% more numbers to the value that we received for Infinite Stars rank 2, to the 2,200,000, and we get the final result here, extrapolated speculative result of what we would have gotten if I had Infinite Stars rank 3, would be 2,500,000. Still nowhere near 6 million that we got from Twilight Devastation. Nowhere near that. Time to talk about Echoing Void, because Echoing Void hits hard and is also an AoE. Let's do it. Echoing Void, I believe, let's call it Echoing Void rank 2, but like I said, it's not a linear kind of system by Blizzard here. Infinite Stars rank 2 would be corruption level 50. Infinite Stars or Twilight Devastation rank 3 would be 75. Yet Echoing Void offers me corruption level of 60. I think that must be Echoing Void 2. I don't think it's Echoing Void 3. Let me know in the comments down below once again if you know better. This is the best Echoing Void I have. It's the one that collapses for damage equal to 1% of your health. And it does it a lot more frequently than any of the other two. So let's see how that goes. What's to say about Echoing Void? Echoing Void, look, we are here of course we're here after not cosmetics, not how it looks, not how whatever, but it's a game, we're having fun, and I think mentioning at least briefly how it makes you feel as a player when you utilize or rely on that kind of added effect, is probably worth it. So I'll say that Echoing Void is the least exciting one. Echoing Void does do a bit of a shadowy swirl or AoE around you periodically if you look closely enough, but it's certainly not Infinite Stars, and it's certainly not Twilight Devastation as far as optics is concerned, as far as pleasing you as a player, like kind of, yeah, it hit, don't care. Echoing Void is an AoE. Echoing Void is an AoE that doesn't go far. Again, my guess would be 20, maybe 25 yards from the player. It builds up and then it starts collapsing, doing that damage to all enemies around you. To make Echoing Void remotely work for you, you have to group up a lot of mobs. It's not a boss killer, it's an AoE thing. It's kind of like Twilight Devastation, but it doesn't require targeting. It's a lot more dumb, if you like. You just need to make sure, like, it's in your best interest to capitalize on Echoing Void. You need to have as many enemies around you all the time. You need to pool consistently, and the squishier, the more plentiful, the more of a crowd you collect, the better off you'll be with Echoing Void. Now let's look at numbers. So I ran it obviously on my druid. As I said to you in the beginning, I tried to run it as honestly, as similarly to the other two through Horrific Vision of Stormwind. I didn't stealth. I pulled everything, just like my two other tanks had to. So Under these conditions, it's hardly worth mentioning the number of times Echoing Void has manifested itself, because it collapses all the time, yeah? But if you need a number, it's 584 versus 32 times that Twilight Devastation 3 hit. That gives you an idea. And overall, through all these 584 times, it did close to 3 million damage. So more than Infinite Stars, quite a bit more than Infinite Stars, quite a bit more. And it was the top 2 abilities. It was 13% of my total damage done by my bear. Top 2 abilities. So I'd say, again, maybe as wrapping thoughts, we are now gonna summarize here, guys. As my wrapping thoughts are, you need to use the right tool for the right job. It makes no sense eating soup with a fork. Yeah, does that metaphor resonate? So if you know that majority of your play is going to be with a lot of smaller, tinier mobs, then you would use something that has AoE effect. And needless to say, as any normal common sense driven person, you probably would use the highest corruption effect that you can. So, but having said that, I would say if I had Echoing Void rank 3 and Twilight Devastation rank 2, looking at these numbers, looking at how it feels, looking at how I like to play, I would probably choose Twilight Devastation rank 2, because it would do more damage than Echoing Void rank 3, and I would have more pleasing gameplay experience, and it would fit more into how I want to play. I hope this example illustrates what I'm trying to say to you in terms of try and use these numbers as a guideline, loose guideline, and kind of apply it to your own playstyle, what works for you. So, final results, my friends. Ultimate winner of this particular test under these particular skewed conditions is Twilight Devastation. Well done, everyone. Well done, Twilight Devastation people. Well done. Second place goes to Echoing Void. Echoing Void people, thank you very much for participating. Well done as well to you guys. And final place number 3, bronze medal, goes to Infinite Stars rank 2. Very well done. Better luck next time, guys. Better luck next time. Well done. I hope you enjoyed this little, not very scientific, but trying to be entertainingly scientific, a little comparison / guide for corruptions that you can still grab in 8.3 before Shadowlands hits you. And if you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing, showing your support. The growth of the channel has been freaking amazing. Love you guys, love talking to you. If you have some experiences to share, maybe you have something to add about Gushing Wound, talk to me about Gushing Wound, the one that I know the least about. And tune in for the next video in a couple of days' time. World of Warcraft, Shadowlands, hopefully I'm in beta soon. At the moment of recording of this video, I'm not yet. So we will hopefully have more fun stuff to talk about very, very soon. I'll talk to you again in a couple of days' time. See you later. Bye.